House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that she thinks Biden has a tremendous mandate, but Democrats in Congress are potentially looking at a smaller House majority and theoretically a Republican Senate. I want to play something that Virginia Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said on a conference call of House Democrats this week that you, I'm sure, heard as it happened live. Take a listen.
We need to not ever use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Because while people think it doesn't matter, it does matter. And we lost good members because of that. If we are classifying Tuesday as a success from a congressional standpoint, we will get torn apart in 2022. And excuse the profanity, that's the reality.
I imagine you disagree with that assessment. Why is she wrong?
So, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that first of all, just the really hard fight that a lot of our swing district members had. And it is not to deny that Republicans levied very effective rhetorical attacks against our party. That, I believe, is absolutely true. But I think one of the things that's very important is to realize that very effective Republican attacks are going to happen every cycle. And so the question is, how do we defend ourselves against that? If you look at some of these, some of the arguments that are being advanced, that defund the police hurt, or that arguments about socialism hurt, not a single member of Congress that I'm aware of campaigned on socialism or defunding the police in this general election. And these were largely slogans, or they were demands from activist groups that we saw in the largest uprising in American history around police brutality. And so the question that we have is, how can we build in a more effective democratic operation that is stronger and more resilient to Republican attacks? And I believe that there are many areas that we can point at in centralized democratic operations that are extraordinarily weak. For example, our digital campaigning is very weak. And this is an area where Republicans are actually quite strong. President Trump, he won the 2016 election, as we know, largely on digital organizing and strategy. And I believe that many Republicans were very effective at digital organizing and strategy as well, whereas the Democratic Party is still campaigning largely as though it's 2005. And I know a lot of us don't want to hear this, but 2005 was 15 years ago. So we can do better. And then when we really dig down and refine our operations, we can be more resilient to these strong Republican attacks.
You are listening to Ada Jet Noise, and this is the Morning Flyby.
Good morning. How are ya? How you doing? I'm okay. You are listening to Ada Jet Noise, and this is the Morning Flyby. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me in the soon-to-be socialist states of America. I had a question proposed to me that, aren't we already socialists? Well, yeah, we have some socialist things going on, the Medicare and Social Security. It's in the name. There's some, progressive tax plan. Yeah, there's some socialist things happening here in the country. Absolutely. And they're all run by government. Indeed. Otherwise, it wouldn't be socialist, would they? And they all stink. We're fighting about them. We don't trust the government to run them. They're up and down in what they do with them. They absolutely stink. And here we are debating on how much more we want to give government to do for us. Handing over more of our liberties, threatening our Second Amendment rights, threatening our First Amendment rights. The programs that are indeed socialist here in the United States are all run by government. I think everyone's forgetting that. I think everybody's gotten what's the syndrome? Look, we've gotten used to these programs being in our lives. They've been in our lives for, well, most of us here, they've been in our lives for all our life, and we think that they're supposed to happen. And they didn't need to happen, but they did. It's just like, you invest. We've all invested so much in Social Security, we expect to get some of that back. And Social Security wasn't necessarily planned for that, right? It was, when it was first made, it was in case the head of household, or the income winner, was to disappear somehow, die, what have you, badly injured, and the government would help people out. Remember the first check was $14 to a lady that lost her husband in a work accident, I believe it was. And that turned into this. We've actually turned it into a retirement plan. We expect Social Security to happen. Well, now we have to expect it because we've invested so much in it. But it hangs on a thread. Every year, every presidency that goes by. Social Security, on a thread. Medicare, on a thread. We get threatened to lose those things because we don't run those things. We expect government. And for some ungodly reason, we trust government. You say you should be able to. No. They're at the top. So, enough of that for the time being. Right? So, yeah, A to Jet Noise. That's who you're listening to. And this is the Morning Flyby. Hey, by all means, I love you. Please share how much you love me. Go to Facebook, hit like, follow me. I could use the numbers. YouTube, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Please leave comments. That's I much appreciated. If you love me, if you hate me, please leave comments. If you have got comments or questions that you want to share, by all means. That's what the comment sections are for in these areas. On Parler, where apparently I'm making some sort of impact. That's kind of fun to see my views go up. I'll take anything I can get. So on Parler, apparently, where freedom still rings, and the freedom of speech is still a thing, and on Rumble, which is kind of like YouTube without the butt-headedness. Rumble. Hey, if you like dog videos, I'm noticing a lot of dog videos on Rumble. So you might want to look up Rumble just for the puppy videos. And while you're there, I have a puppy too. Well, he's actually a 11-year-old lab. But hey, he's cute. By all means, A to Jet Noise on Rumble. Subscribe. Again, leave comments. Let them know that you love me. Rumble me on Rumble. Let's get into this mess we call the United States of America. Like a scene from the Thriller video. More than 10,000 people confirmed or suspected dead have confirmed or suspected dead have returned their mail-in ballots to Michigan. In Michigan, the dead have returned their ballots in Michigan. This came from an analysis of the state's election day data by Big big data poll. Apparently, this thing is called Big Data Poll, which kind of sounds like a rap name. But that is they are the ones that pretty much follow the elections closely in Michigan, and they're finding dead people are casting their votes. Apparently, with all kinds of enthusiasm. Granted, the list of rejected voters isn't yet available. Maybe some or miraculously all were rejected. I doubt it. About 9,500 voters were confirmed dead through the Social Security Death Index, are marked in the state's mail voting database as having returned ballots. I don't want to be buried in a Michigan cemetery. Don't want to cast my vote no more. Among the Michigan voting dead were a little over 1,700 centenarians. According to the Michigan census, there is 1,729 people that are 100 years or older in Michigan, and they all voted. Indeed, they all voted. Michigan Secretary of State Tracy Wimmer claims that those votes would be rejected. She also said they might have died after they sent the ballot. They might have died after they sent the ballot. Director of State Elections Richard Barris said, "While I'm open to the idea of some of these have been rejected, I'm not open to the outright dismissal. They were all rejected." So yes, the walking voters, the voting dead in Michigan, bringing us an interesting election. Father of the Complete Life System, Daniel, did I say Daniel? Wow, that is not going to bode well when you hear his actual name. Dr. Zeke Emanuel was Daniel. Dr. Zeke Emanuel was appointed as an advisor to the Biden coronavirus panel, although Zeke believes that the vaccine developed in this country must be evenly distributed worldwide. In other words, an American-made vaccine should only be administered to certain Americans. Obviously, the federal government would decide who those certain Americans would be, and if indeed Zeke Emanuel is the chooser, what can we expect? Zeke is the author of the Complete Lives System, death panels. It is a guideline on who should receive care in America, death panels. The system prioritizes persons with instrumental value, quote, instrumental value, i.e. future usefulness. Young people. Death panels. In the Complete Lives System, death panels, there is a graph illustrating who gets first crack at the priority health care. Age 0 through, here's when you see the graph, and he actually goes into detail on how this works out. But when you see the graph, you'll see that ages 0 through 5 get low priority health care. So if they're sick from the womb until around 5 years old, low priority health care. Tell me, ages 5 through 15 get strongly considered health care. 5 through 15, strongly considered health care. I mean, that is the learning ages, right? With that whole 5 through 15. So that's where you can drill things to the brain. So 5 through 15, strongly considered healthcare. And you'll see why. Because 15 to 40 get priority healthcare. That is the working group. That is the working group. You are able to contribute between 15 to 40. You're able to contribute, and your worth, or should I say, your instrumental value, is at its peak between 15 to 40. 40 to 65, we'll call it an elective. An elective, not by the patient, but we'll call it an elective. Lastly, 65 plus. This is all Zeke Emanuel's from the warm, fuzzy heart of Zeke Emanuel, who will likely lead the coronavirus task force for President Biden, if indeed the Biden-Harris camp belongs in the White House. Lastly, 65 years old, 65 plus. Look, you'd hate to think that those years of hard work and wisdom and accumulation, as well as time spent trying to eat well and exercising, behaving well, can all come down to an outpatient surgery that could help avoid a major surgery that you're probably not going to be allowed to get anyway. Let's just look at it that way. I know that sounded more like a riddle, but listen to it again, and you'll see why I tried to avoid being a little more direct in that particular case. As for the possible vaccine seemingly out of nowhere, Pfizer, their partners indicate an effective vaccine for coronavirus is imminent soon. Wow. That is amazing. That Biden might be in the White House and Pfizer comes out and says, hey, we got a 90% effective vaccine for the coronavirus. Just out of nowhere, just amazing. But it's like, I don't know, maybe Biden and his camp put hands on Pfizer. Pfizer, bring us the miracles that only Biden can bring us. And Emmanuel wants to take the American taxpayer-funded vaccine and distribute it globally before giving it to the seasoned Americans, and apparently the newborn Americans, which would, when you think about it, should include Sleepy Joe. Indeed, death panels. Here, Zeke Emanuel, Ezekiel Emanuel, who, by the way, is the brother of Rahm Emanuel. You'll know him as he was the mayor of Chicago, was it? Mayor of Chicago, and the Secretary of Staff for Barack Obama. Not in that order. Zeke Emanuel, brother of Rahm, wrote, reasonable national partiality does not permit retaining more vaccine than the amount needed to keep the rate of transmission below 1, when the vaccine could instead mitigate substantial COVID-19 related harms in other countries that have been unable to keep the rate transmission below 1 through the ongoing public health efforts. What's interesting about that is that he kept mentioning that the rate of transmission is below 1. Does that mean something now? I mean, because it's been below 1 pretty much since we started recording all of this. But now it actually means something? I'm a little confused. I would like to take this moment to point out the douchebag of the day, Pfizer, in a pathetic attempt to distance itself from President Trump, tried to downplay its ties to the administration. In a statement, we have never taken any money from the U.S. government or from anyone. Whew. It is Pfizer is whew, you're walking the fine line here. They have never taken any money from the U.S. government or anyone except for the $1.95 billion in taxpayer money, and they agreed to $100 million of the vaccine back in July. So yeah, I get it. President Trump was a little polarizing, and maybe you felt he was a little polarizing, and you felt you didn't want to be connected to him. But flat out douchebag lying like that, I don't know. That just seems a little sad. At least I think so. It seems a little sad. Minneapolis, where the cry to defund the police really got rolling in late May in the wake of the death of George Floyd, is facing a police shortage. What? That has led to serious crime problems. What? So now it looks like the city will be forced to outsource its police work to the tune of $500,000 for a month and a half of work. The council promised the city's anti-police citizens that they would dismantle the city's police system. Then in June, the city council unanimously adopted a resolution officially committing to replace the Minneapolis Police Department with a community safety model. Community safety model. I wonder if that'll work in Baltimore or in Cleveland. Oakland, the community safety model. The city council moves and the defund the police crowd were successful in trying to curtail the police. Crime spiked in Minneapolis, and members of the city council were demanding to know, where are the police? Indeed, they were very successful. So successful that the Minneapolis police chief, Madaria Arredondo, said that the police, when they asked where are the police, he simply said gone, because that's what happened. They're gone. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune reported Monday night that the anti-police mayor and city council are now looking at bringing in officers from other jurisdictions to help the MPD take on the crime wave and cop shortage. It's like stupid stacks on stupid. It's like, is it a disease? It is indeed worse than the coronavirus. Stupid is far more effective and dangerous than the coronavirus. The plan would pull in cops from Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and Metro Transit Police for temporary work in the city, mostly responding to violent 911 calls using joint enforcement teams. And of course, community safety models. According to the paper, the planned teams would form Sunday and run through the end of the year. The 7-week contract police plan would cost the city $497,000. $500,000 to bring in half the work that your police were doing. Such a sad state of mind we are in. Leftists, unsurprisingly, continue to demonstrate unhinged hatred and lack of mercy to anyone who doesn't view the world through the flawless lenses. Their latest victim is singer Katy Perry, Poor Katy, who committed a heinous sin after media outlets declared former Vice President Joe Biden the winner of the 2020 election over the President Donald Trump. You see, Katy was reached out to her family members of who she was bickering with about politics. Of course, her parents or her family members were voting for Trump, were interested in what Trump had to say, were happy with what Trump was doing, happy with what he was doing, and so they felt strongly about Trump. Katy, being Hollywood, being total sellout, being Katy Perry, had to go with Biden, and she felt strongly that Biden was going to unify the country and bring all kinds of yummy goodness to our land, our land of the free, by making some of that free go away. So Twitter, social media in general, had a field day with Katy Perry. How dare you reach across the aisle? Those people are just awful. Anyone that voted for Trump is just a racist, bigoted, homophobe. And so she had a hard time with. I'm not even going to say they're fans, because there's no way that fans would say the things that they said to her. So one of the left-wing social nut jobs said, "Truth is, rich white people such as yourself were never at risk, no matter who won this election. To you, this is more of a disagreement of opinions. The rest of us, this election was a matter of life or death in many aspects. So no, I won't be calling my family to console them, because I hate my family for voting for Trump. I never hated him before, but Trump was the last straw. And I'm a big old jackass." Super good to know white supremacy isn't a deal breaker for you. That's what another Einstein wrote. "I refuse to bow down to my oppressors. I refuse to extend an olive branch to people who don't think I should exist. Yes, family, I forgive you for wanting to deny marginalized people human rights. After all, I would hate for Sunday dinner to be awkward." And here's the last one. This one's nice. Another commentator offered better options, which were calling friends and family who have been traumatized by 4 years of hate and asking them what they need, and calling friends and family who are Republican but voted for Biden and thanking them for putting people above politics. And, of course, slapping racist in the face. That is what Katy Perry had to go through. Poor Katy. Maybe if you were a little more honest with yourself, you wouldn't have to go through some of the things that you went through there. But that's okay. My time is almost done here. I was challenged on the last program where I mentioned Jennifer Lopez should adopt children. And the challenge states that they're offended that I would have Jennifer Lopez adopt children. That's not her responsibility. She has her own children, and as soon as Trump put those kids in the cages, they're his responsibility. Trump didn't put the kids in the cages. That was already the SOP. It was the SOP for decades. The cages were built in the Obama administration. It was their, again, that was their attempt to separate the children, the unclaimed children, from the adults. Back as far as Clinton, the procedure was you can only hold children for 30 days. You could only hold children from 30 days when they came across the border illegally. So the adults would be held here. You had to hold the adults for committing the crime, but you could only hold the children for 30 days, and then they had to be released. You don't release children anywhere on their own. It's just not what we do in America. Maybe someplace else is okay with that. But in America, call us soft if you want to. But for the procedure was you can only hold the children. It was by law. You can only hold the children for 30 days. And then they had to be released. But the parents were incarcerated. So, long story short, here come the cages. The kids can stay among the cages. When I said Jennifer should adopt, or Idina Menzel, which was actually the actual real topic of that particular story, the Idina Menzel and Jennifer Lopez should adopt. I was using absurdity to illustrate absurdity. Using absurdity to illustrate absurdity. And what I mean by that is it is just as ridiculous to blame especially this president and any other president for illegal immigrants coming in here against our laws. And for Idina Menzel and Jennifer Lopez to blame this president because it is convenient, because they don't like him, for something that he had nothing to do with. In fact, he made it safer for the children in those quote-unquote cages. He indeed made it safer. And he made sure that the children were not released and that those kids are clean. And that it is... The argument is they're behind cages. The absurd idea of them of celebrities adopting children instead of complaining about it, they can invest in much better facilities for these children. What happens is when there's a president in the United States in the White House that they ignore what is happening at the border. When a president comes along that they don't like, all of a sudden there's an issue. It is the same children in the same situation. Whether the president is a libertarian, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, either we're going to address the issue, or some of us need to zip our lip. So I understand that not everyone gets sarcasm, and if you, the more you watch me, you're going to find out that you better put your big rubber boots on, because you will be stepping in some sarcasm. Watch your step, because you might cut one of your toes off stepping in some of my I think I just had a stroke in my sarcasm. The deadpan face in the absurd things, some of the absurd things, when they are absolutely absurd coming out of my mouth, take them with a grain of salt, because what I'm doing is I'm making a point that instead, in this particular case, that instead of whining, complaining, finger pointing about, again, in this situation, about these children being locked away behind fences. Well, technically they're not. They're being treated really well. There's never been a report, never, ever, ever been a report where those children have been abused behind those fences. But if you feel that is an issue, then take your riches and start making facilities where these children can live in the spaces or have the life that you feel that these children need to have. But meanwhile, all we're doing is blah, blah, blah. All we're doing is blah, blah, blah. And they're behind fences because there's no place to put illegal immigrants. There's no place to put illegal immigrants. Unless, of course, you just let them into the land. And that's not good. That's a burden on the system. And no one is saying immigrants do not belong here. But there's a process. And so many are happy to go through the process because they want to be here. Why are we cheating those particular people? Those people that go through the process, that want to be here, want to contribute, do not want to be a burden. They just want to be able to live a good life. Why would we cheat them by just letting people in here? Unvetted, unaccounted for. We can't do that. We can't do that. Ask France why you can't do that. France is suffering terrorist attacks right now because of unvetted immigrants. In we would consider them here illegal immigrants. So those are the kind of things we're trying to avoid. Those are the things we're trying to avoid. And we've attacked so much. We have attacked so much in the last 4 years of the bad things that were coming across the border. So it was actually being effective. We were being effective. And for somebody that is absolutely living in an Eiffel Tower, in the ivory tower, someone living in an ivory tower to come along and say that things are just absolutely wrong because a certain president is in when it comes to this border situation, it's just ridiculous. Therefore, my response, my suggestion about people adopting children, even though that would be a great answer, is pretty much tongue-in-cheek. Pretty much tongue-in-cheek. And I don't knock anyone for thinking that otherwise, but it did spark a thought. It did spark that thought. It did spark that challenge, and that's why I'm here to answer that challenge today. So, the border. It is what it is. And until we're willing to do anything about it, talking about it is not getting a damn thing done. Not getting a damn thing done. So, there's where we're at. That is enough of who I am today. And that is enough of the news and the craziness that is happening here in the United States of America. Join me again tomorrow. I will be here, bright and cheery, and trying to keep everyone informed, motivated, trying to get under your skin. Because getting under your skin provokes thought. And part of our issue is that not enough of us are willing to think about things when it's time to think about those particular things. Therefore, we get run over and we're like, what happened? So, again, Ada Jet Noise, you were listening to Ada Jet Noise. This is the morning flyby. I hope I informed you. I hope I motivated you. I hope I water cooler talk, gave you some water cooler talk, and some information, some ammunition, if you will. Ada Jet Noise on Facebook, like, YouTube, Ada Jet Noise, subscribe on Parler. Apparently, freedom still rings, and again, apparently, somebody likes me on Parler, making some sort of impact on Parler, and on Rumble is where I hope I can make a similar impact. Rumble, Ada Jet Noise, follow, subscribe, tell them that you love me. Until then, big hug, be good, be still, enjoy your life.